That was The Clash with Train in Vain on the Tri-Cities Rock Alternative 88.3 CJIQ. You're in the middle of the afternoon rush. I'm Phil Nagy, and now, last December, a very special event went down in the Kitchener-Waterloo area, and I'm talking about Strummerfest 2012. This involved over 20 bands, 7 venues, and several volunteers. Now, this festival went off without a hitch, and with the main focus being on raising funds for the Waterloo Region Suicide Prevention Program and Your Life Counts. And on that very cold December night, that became a great night to remember. And in with me today on the Afternoon Rush, I have Michael Clifton and Jade Squire to talk about another event that Strummerfest is promoting, the Ska'ncert, which is focusing on raising money for charities again, but this time promoting a great genre of music, ska. Welcome, Michael and Jade, to the Afternoon Rush.
Hi, Phil. Thank you.
Phil.
So let's just dive right into this. Now, it's unfortunate because you don't really see too many full-out ska shows anymore, and it's sad because the energy in the crowd is great, and just watching how much fun the bands are having, it makes the shows that much better. And everyone knows that Joe Strummer had roots with ska and reggae, and now is there a plan to cross even more ska or even punk genres, subgenres, like another night, maybe a pure ska punk, like bands like the Flatliners, or maybe just a hard punk concert, like stuff to cross over genres, maybe?
Well, right now, the future of Strummerfest is not written, which I suppose is appropriate. We're still working on some of the future concerts. I don't think I want to talk about the specific bands yet because we haven't got promises or details set up with all of them. But we are going to try and do a couple more pre-festival concerts. An all-out punk event is a good idea.
Yeah.
That sort of, I guess I'm old enough now that I don't know the right word, the marriage between heavy metal and punk that's happened over the last decade or so.
Yeah, the whole metalcore scene and stuff,
Yeah, that seems to be pretty well saturated. So I don't know that we'll specifically do anything about that. I like us to do concerts with music that isn't normally being heard, like the all-out ska. That's something that just wasn't happening. In fact, we had a very hard time finding a ska band and didn't have one for Strummerfest 2012. Which I had really wanted.
Yeah, well, now you got the Ska'ncert that's going down this Friday, and now you have all local bands that are playing here. It's going to be a great night of just all-out ska, but I want to know what some of the interactions were like when you contacted the bands like the Bosswich and the Baudelaires, asking them to play.
Well, they're just great guys, and I actually know Scott. I guess he goes by Scotty in the Bosswich. And they're great guys. They're a lot of fun. They're high energy, and they've all been willing to take part in this without question. The Baudelaires as well, just jumping right in there. The nice thing is that they're all willing not merely to take part, but they understand the charitable focus of Strummerfest, and they're all willing to support that and make it as easy and inexpensive for us as it can be.
So sharing equipment, maybe a common drum kit?
Yeah. In fact, I think both the Baudelaires and the Bosswich have offered up their drum sets, so we'll see which one we end up with.
Well, that's pretty awesome. And now, one of the big bands that's playing, it's Perry The Gladtones. They've got some pretty amazing credentials. They've sold out shows in Toronto. They've toured overseas, and they have a really good LP out on iTunes right now. It's called Love at the End of the Century. Now, what was it like getting them to play? Like Perry, that's a pretty big band playing right now.
Yeah, again, it was just fantastic. I find if you just address people like people, they tend to respond in kind.
That can't be more true.
And he's just a great gentleman. He was very willing to take part again, understood immediately what we were about, and wants to bring his band here. And I don't think for him it's necessarily building a new audience. It's just the opportunity to come out and have some fun. He knows that a lot of his regular fans won't drag themselves out to Kitchener to be here, but he just wants to be part of the event, so we really appreciate that.
Well, it is going to be a lot of fun. That's this Friday at the Edelweiss. Now, let's talk about Strummerfest, the organizations here. It's all about promoting local music and raising awareness. And the festival itself was a really great success. All the hard work the volunteers did, all the sound engineers, the bands, everyone else who made that really cold night really awesome, showed how powerful the local music scene really is. Now, did you expect it to be as successful as it was?
I didn't know what to expect last year. What really made it succeed was Finch and all of her group of volunteers from Iris, just an incredible group of people. And then all of the bands volunteering. Oh, you've mentioned this. Everyone volunteered.
Yeah,
the venues volunteered. It was incredible. And the support of the sponsors in the city of Kitchener were just incredible. And with all that coming together, and especially I think with Finch's energy, I mean, as she says, she likes to say she took my vision and ran with it, which is really true. She made it much bigger and more interesting than I think I would have been able to do on my own.
Yeah, Cara does tend to do that. Now, so since people had such a good time at last year's festival, are there any big plans for this year's festival? I'm kind of excited for it.
Well, there are big plans, but that's what they are right now is plans. We can't. We've been talking to some bigger headliners than we had last year. I mean, we had SFH, the name we can't mention in public.
Yeah, not airworthy.
Yeah, but
great punk band.
They were terrific, and I hope they'll come back again this year, either for a pre-festival concert or back on the main stage. But we are looking at some more substantial headliners. We have connection with Keith Smout of All My People Music. He's been very supportive. So it could be one of their bands. There's some other local people that are pretty significant. We may be able to pull some of them into it. So right now, everything's sort of in the works, and I'm hoping that within the next month or two, we'll be able to announce what's happening.
I'm going to be excited for that announcement. Now, you had a lot of bands playing. There were over 20 bands playing at Strummerfest.
Yes,
now,
including yours.
Yes, actually. But it would be easy to make that into a 2-day event. So are there ideas maybe possibly expanding into a multiple-day festival or...
Yeah. I think particularly if we have a major headliner and need to do more or less a ticketed event for the main event, then we have to make that on its own night. So last year where we had the 6 events happening all at the same time just wouldn't be viable for that type of thing.
Right.
One of the thoughts I'd had was actually running it over a period of weeks and having a number of shows that lead up to the main event, but that could get tiring. So
yeah, but that would be interesting, having just multiple smaller shows just with good bands playing, just promote Strummerfest up to Strummerfest.
Yeah, upholding the values of the festival and all those same aims. And the pre-festival concerts are kind of doing that as well, but that's a different kind of opportunity.
Building a new, bigger audience.
Yeah.
Now, I want to know why this organization was formed. What started Strummerfest? Well,
it really starts from my love of Joe Strummer, which I don't mean in any kind of funny way. Yeah. I was one of those young punks in the late 70s, early 80s who got to hear The Clash when they were still reasonably fresh, got to see them live at CNE just prior to the demise of the band. I mentioned in kind of the comments we've had beforehand, Joe Strummer's had a big impact on my life. I don't become a fan of things very easily.
Right.
In fact, I don't think I'm a fan of anything else. I get made fun of for that. If it isn't The Clash, it's nothing. But when he died, that had a big impact on me emotionally.
Right.
And
it affected many others, it's true.
Yeah, many people have expressed the same thing, which is gratifying. And doing Strummerfest has been very gratifying to find so many other people who share those feelings. But I kind of felt that I wanted to give something back to what he'd given to me in my life. Yeah. Well, idol's kind of an inappropriate word for punk. I don't know.
Well, I idolize punk bands, so
there
I'm
we
not
go.
sure. Maybe I'm guilty for that.
There we go. I don't know. I'm sure we all are. But that was basically the motivation, was give something back, and it had to be something that was in kind with what Joe Strummer had given. That meant it had to involve music. Had to involve him in some way, but more importantly had to involve the charitable aspects, actually upholding the values and the value of life that he extolled throughout all of his music and career.
And actually, you guys were nominated for Best New Festival at the Waterloo Arts Awards.
We were one of the 30,000 nominees. Well, there was a lot of good competition and excellent festivals out last year. I wish I'd known that I would have just hidden in a corner and let them go forward.
Well, there's always next year, too, because if you got these big plans, who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
So now let's jump into the charities. Now, there's two very serious charities that the money is being donated to. That's Your Life Counts and the Waterloo Region Suicide Prevention Council. Now, how did you decide on these two charities? It's a very serious topic.
It was there's sort of personal connections there. Finch is very devoted to the Waterloo Region Suicide Prevention Council, has a good relationship with Tana Nash, and has supported them through the Mariah series and some of her other events. For me, my daughter performed in the first Mariah series concert at CARE's invitation, and she actually knew Mariah. They went to school together. They weren't close friends, but they knew each other. So her suicide had an impact on our home, and we've had suicide in our own family. My cousin, who's actually about 20 years older than me, we had reconnected after about a 40-year separation in the family. He lived in South Africa, and only about a year later he committed suicide. I guess the wrong phrase now. He died by suicide a year later. So we have close connections there, and also through the work I do for my church, I've become connected with Your Life Counts, which is an incredible organization, national in its scope at this time, but actually has international branches. And what impresses me most, and the Waterloo Region Suicide Prevention Council has the same focus, is the focus on building hope. They don't treat suicide in an extremely clinical way. It's a very human approach, and it makes me more aware. And as I've thought more about it and been more involved, more aware that suicide and the kind of crisis that it is, and it is, I think, on average, it's the 10th most common killer in Canada. Our affluent, secure society still suffers from this. We're not in a place where you'd expect people to need to resort to that to solve the problems in their lives, but it still happens. But suicide is one of those things that we can each address. We don't need to be professionals, we just need to be caring people. And if we could help to give one another hope, to support one another through our struggles and our depression, we can help people to avoid making that kind of decision in their lives.
And that goes hand in hand with ska, because it's all about having fun, having a good time, bringing people together.
Absolutely.
And so that's a very good combination. Now, Jade, you also have connections with the Waterloo Region Suicide Council and a personal story. Would you like to share it?
Yeah, I'd love to. Actually, I don't have so much of a connection to the council yet, but I'm hoping to work a little more closely with them in the future, and of course, just sort of, doing what I can through Ska'ncert and in future with Strummerfest. I think that's worthwhile, definitely worthwhile. Because a few years ago in 2005, I did lose my best friend to suicide as well. So it definitely, it affects just so many people when that happens.
The
and
emotional distress and everything.
Yeah, and it still affects me to this day. I don't know if there's really any getting over a situation like that, really, with any trauma that happens to people. And there's two sides of it. There's both, the family and friends who are left, to deal and recover, and and all the care that is needed there, and also, any of the people that are having these thoughts or things like that, or thinking that this is the only decision that they have left. Just making sure that we maybe are one of those resources and one of those voices out there in the community, just to say, there is help out there, and this is where you can get it, and we're here to help. There's so many people there to help you, whether you know them or not. So that's really important to me. Yeah.
You guys are doing a great job raising awareness for this and donating all this money and supporting local music all together at once with the Ska'ncert that is going down this Friday at the Edelweiss, and I'm going to keep the rock coming. I've got stuff from Slash, and I've got Phoenix coming up after this, so keep it locked to the Tri-Cities Rock Alternative 88.3 CJIQ. Thank you so much, Jade and Michael, for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
You have a lot of possessions, a lot of money in the bank.
Position make you rich? I don't have that type of richness. My richness is life.